Hello.
Hey, Simon.
Hey, Simon, it's Skylar. How you doing?
Simon.
Hello, Simon.
What's up, Simon?
Hello.
How you doing?
Hey.
Hello.
Hey,
Simon.
Hello, Simon. Hello, Simon.
Hi, my name is Simon Brooks. I am the host of Conversations with Storytellers, a podcast of wisdom, thoughts, and folk and fairy tales from our elders, a meeting with professional storytellers. I decided to travel around the country when I could to interview some of the elders in our community of traditional storytelling, people who, through their work, travel about telling myths and legends, folk and fairy tales. Each storyteller shares their thoughts on our profession and gems of wisdom, and sometimes a story or two. I'm glad that you're here. During COVID, I've been conducting most of these conversations over the phone or via online platforms. I cannot wait for you to hear the conversation I had with Linda Gorham. We talk about a city girl and how she made herself a teller of tales. Taking folk and fairy tales and fracturing them or twisting them is Linda's favourite type of work. Her collection of stories and words, made up and otherwise, is inspiring to hear about. Life of a young girl moving around the world and how she is now settled. Please enjoy Linda Gorham. Linda Gorham, thank you so much indeed for joining me on this podcast. I've been looking forward to this for a while, and I'm glad you're here. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
So you've been doing this for over 30 years now, right?
I have.
And you've enjoyed every single minute of it, I bet.
No. I love performing. I love the audiences. Actually, I enjoy researching some of the stories that I have where I did a lot of research. But I don't necessarily enjoy all the driving, which is not in the Zoom world, but I don't necessarily enjoy the trying to take what I have created and putting it into my head. My head does not absorb information and ideas and then allow my mouth to spit them out. My head looks at what I usually write first, and then I learn my material. And my head doesn't like learning my material. But when I'm live in person, you can improvise.
Yeah,
so
it's true.
That's the part about Zooming that is hard to do.
Because you don't get the feedback.
Yeah, you don't get the feedback, but I enjoy performing.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your family growing up. What was it like to be little Linda?
In my mind, in my memory, it was wonderful. My father was in the military. He did 20 years in the military. So the first bunch of years of my life, I lived in New Jersey, Germany, Alaska, Georgia, and back to New Jersey. And that was all before the age of 12.
Wow.
So I have moved around a lot with him and my parents, my mother and my sisters. What I loved about it was that we felt as if we could get along anywhere we went. And my mother used to say that. She used to say, every move is an adventure. So when I married, and we did a similar kind of rotation with our own children, I told them the same thing. Every move is an adventure. So I always felt as if my background was a background of different places and people, and that all came together to make me who I am. For better or worse, I guess. But still, it is who I am. People say, where are you from? And I say, I'm from where I am right now.
Oh, I like the answer. That's a really good answer. I like that a lot. So I did a little bit of reading about you, did a little bit of research because, I do that. And it seems that your grandfather was quite a figure. I read about the book, and I wonder how much of that you want to share and how much of that had an influence on you growing up, maybe becoming into the storyteller that you are right now.
I think anything we experience young helps us become what we are as an adult. I don't think there's a direct tie from hearing little snippets of stories about my family to me becoming a storyteller. But I always look back and say that my father was a big influence because he was military officer. He had his rules and he had his expectations, and he made his expectations very clear. And in the story that I think you're referencing called The Book, I didn't realize that my father's desire for his children came directly from his father, my grandfather, who came up with nothing and made himself a world. And he always said that the world he made was based on listening and talking to people and writing things down that they said. And according to family lore, my grandfather kept them in a little black book, and that book was passed to my father, which of course I've never seen, but I can remember all the stuff he said and repeat it over and over again. But when I became an adult and kind of understood what everybody was talking about with this book, it made me realize that I stand on the shoulders of my grandfather.
That's really cool. That's really cool. Have you never asked your father to see the black book?
It didn't matter if I asked him or not. He would have a roundabout answer to what he wanted to say. My father just would smile. The problem with my father is he was too handsome. And so if you asked him a question and the response you got was a smile, you were melted. You couldn't do anything. That was the end of it. I'm like, all right, fine.
I guess I'm not handsome enough because that doesn't work in my family.
It's just, he had a smile that you just thought there was probably like 20 paragraphs behind the smile, and you just had to go with it.
Yeah, that's so cool. That's so cool. Were there any storytellers in your family growing up?
There were. What's the thing when you do something really short?
A skit?
Not a skit, but a anecdote.
Oh,
so
okay.
my mother was full of anecdotes, and she would tell me a little bit about this person and a little bit about that person. And the stories were really small snippets, not necessarily long, going on about all the things that they did. It was snippet here, snippet there, snippet there. So, in fact, because I felt as if I didn't have a full story, I made up a story based on the snippets. Because we have to do with what we have. And people say, I don't have a story. I'm like, yeah, but you probably have snippets and anecdotes and little things that you heard about them. And you can put them together into a story because it is real.
Right.
So it's my mother's anecdotes that created the story, I Am Somebody. It's based on all the little things she told me about my family and their struggles, their successes, their loves, their joys. Nothing ties together, but it's all relevant.
Right. It's like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle, but there are lots of pieces missing.
Yes.
And
so I put them together.
You're filling those other pieces, right?
I put them together and said, this is what I have. This is who I am, based on these little snippets.
And then you and your family, you put the rest of the pieces in. Those are your pieces.
Yeah, I better make sure I fill in the gaps so that my children don't end up saying what I just said to you about, Mom never filled in the gaps, What I did with my children is I used to tell them, I'll explain that when you're 20. I'll explain that when you're 30. And then when they got to a certain age, I would tell them something else that they hadn't known about me or something else they didn't know about my husband, cool. John. And so now I guess the next marker would be 40. And let's see what kind of bomb I drop on them.
That's funny. So what events led you into... What was your first job growing up? What was your first ever job?
Ooh. Probably serving as a volunteer tutor in my community.
So was that as a senior at school?
No. I was probably a freshman in high school.
Okay.
And there was some organization looking for high school students to tutor elementary school students. There was no pay, but that's probably the first job I had. And then after that, I grew up in Newark, New Jersey. I say grew up. My high school was in Newark, New Jersey. I was living there. And the city had a program for the summer. And I guess my second job was working during the summer with the city. Mm-hmm. They would have children doing activities in the community in several different locations, and my job was to go and supervise about 12 different groups.
Oh, wow.
And it was wonderful. And then after that, I worked for a department store in the scarf department.
Ooh, and here I am wearing a scarf today.
Those are my early jobs, yeah. Yeah. I sold scarves. I knew nothing about scarves. No one asked me. They just said, sell scarves, and I went, I will. So I did.
I bet you knew a lot about scarves by the time you finished that job, though.
I have a whole box of scarves. Yeah, I bought so many scarves because I wanted to wear the scarves that I was trying to.
And you probably got a good discount too, right?
I did get a discount. Yeah, yeah. I used to say to my children, "Why isn't one of you a pilot?" So I could get, a discount.
Yes, the family discount. I know.
One could work for a big hotel chain, and then one could work as a pilot, and I'd be, in. But they didn't.
So how many kids have you got?
I have 2 boys. John and I have 2 sons.
Okay. So if you had a third, then you have a third one that'd be a doctor, right?
Isn't that funny that I never thought about a doctor? I was only thinking about vacation when I was... I guess I could have said doctor and lawyer, but...
Well, hopefully you never need a lawyer, but, we all need doctors at some point, right?
It's funny that so many people might answer that question saying, I wish one of my... Never occurred to me.
That's funny. Yeah, it is funny. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, my daughter's got these goals and dreams. I want to buy you a nice house, Daddy. I was like, yeah, that's great. That's wonderful. I love that. So you have siblings. Am I right? You're saying you had siblings?
I have 2 sisters, yeah.
2 sisters, yeah. And are they into stories or anything like that? What do they do?
No, they're not into stories, but I wasn't into stories. I mean, you talked about my first 2 jobs. Uh-huh. The job, if I'm trying to keep it all in order, the next job I had, maybe I was a junior in high school, and in the summer I worked for a Prudential Insurance Company, basically as a clerk, a gopher. Uh-huh. So the coolest thing they had me do, which would not happen today, here's this little high school junior about to be a senior, they'd give me checks, and it would need 6 signatures or 4 signatures or whatever, and I would go there were 3 buildings with an underground tunnel connecting them, and I would take the underground tunnel and take these checks all the way to the biggest building that had the fanciest offices, and I'd get 1 signature. Then I'd go somewhere and get another. So by the time I was finished, I had all the signatures on the check, and I would take it back to whomever I had requested it. And I thought, wow, they really trust me. And then I thought, wow, I'm worth it. I'm trustworthy. Yeah. But that was really cool part of the job. And then I would make copies and do things like that. But it was that experience at Prudential that really set me off onto my career. That being that when I graduated college, I went, I went back there and got my first real job.
But not as a career.
No, I was in the actuarial department. If anyone knows what that is, that's the math department that is really the basis for what insurance is, how to figure out what to charge people.
Oh, right.
In order to get insurance. Because my degree is in math.
So you're a numbers girl then?
Well, I used to be. Once you give up numbers, they don't come back.
I don't believe that's
Once
true.
Once you switch from numbers to words, trust me, the numbers fade away. So anyway, back to your question, both of my sisters went into business, as I did, and I'm the maverick. I'm the one who did. My father said 3 things. You grow up, you go to school, you study hard, you go to college, you graduate college, you get a job with a pension. That's it. I mean, he didn't mention falling in love, having children. I guess maybe yes. So, like, Dad, what about love and marriage and all this? Like, no, focus on the pension. So.
Smart man. Jeez.
I'm the only one that deviated, from the norm of my family and actually decided to quit and go into my own business as a professional storyteller, which is the antithesis of everything I was trained to be.
So how did you make that leap from business to storytelling?
Well, let me give you a little bit of background. When I majored in math in college, I was the first person in my college to have speech and theater as my minor. No one else had ever done it. You can imagine everybody else in my math department, my math classes.
Yeah.
You know, they were all like science, computer science, biology, whatever. I took a speech class in freshman year, and the speech teacher said to me, "You have the worst New Jersey accent I have ever heard. You can live with it for the rest of your life, or I can help you get rid of it."
Wow, that's a bit
yeah, like
rude.
slap me in the face, right?
Yeah, right.
So because I told you I had moved a lot, I don't know where I picked this up, this accent, but people used to say to me, "Are you from New Jersey or New York?" They don't get it. And I realized, I said to myself, I went into deep introspection. I said, I know that whatever I'm going to do in my life, I want people to listen to me first, not my accent. And it doesn't mean that I mock people with accents. It was just for me, having been told, "You must be from New Jersey." I'm thinking, you missed my first 3 sentences.
Right.
So I took his class almost as a personal dare to myself and enjoyed it, and took a few more speech classes, and then decided to take enough to make a minor. And I do believe that no matter what career we all have, it is important to know how to speak, how to present on stage or in a boardroom or in a meeting or in a business situation. Now, somebody listening is going to say, "You still have a New Jersey accent." And I'm going to tell them that I don't. But I think I got rid of most of it.
So I pick up on accents pretty easy. You know, I listen for accents.
You have one, you know.
I do.
Yeah.
We all have one. Yeah. We all have one. But I haven't yet picked up the New Jersey. There's little bits that might hint at it. But
I worked really hard.
So Ed Stivender, he did the same thing. He decided that he would lose his Philadelphia accent, and since he lost it, he's never ever been able to do it ever again. Can you do a New Jersey accent still?
The only word I can remember working hard to fix was candy. It's candy, but in New Jersey it's candy. And the other is any word that ends in a T, like don't. I think the East Coast New Jersey-ish accent is more like don't, like without that hard T at the end.
Yeah, they drop it, yeah. Yeah, I always, talking about accents and everything, a lot of Americans pronounce the T's as D's. At least
that could be part of it, yeah.
Yeah, because it took me a long time to get used to that and to figure out what people were saying, because I'd hear it as a D instead of a T. I was like, what? And I'd be like, oh yeah, okay, I know what you're saying now. Accents are funny things. They really are. They're very interesting. So you have the speech background, and how did that move you into storytelling?
10 years I worked at the corporation, moving from, by the way, the actuarial department to the human resources department.
Oh, that sounds like more fun.
Honestly, it was. I would say that people who study actuarial science and go into it are brilliant, but I think I needed to be around people who were more than just brilliant. I think I needed to be around people who were a little more well-rounded, in my humble opinion. So I requested a transfer to human resources by writing a letter to my boss. This is before a job posting. And was given the opportunity to go into employment.
Nice.
So after 10 years of that, we moved again. Well, no, while doing all that, let's see, how did that all work? Married John, we moved. I worked as a consultant after one of those moves with the company still, and then decided to stay home with our 2 boys. in that time that I was home, which totaled about 8 years, I saw a storyteller perform. And I had never heard of this art before. I was sitting in the audience astounded that this person had no costuming, this person had no staging. It was Diane Ferlat.
Uh-huh.
And I was mesmerized. No staging, no costuming, one person, voice, body, attitude. I thought, I know that with my husband's corporate job, we're going to keep moving around the country. I know that that means that our boys are going to have to get used to new schools every time we move. Maybe if I learn a few stories, that will help the transition for the boys. Every time they go to a new school, I can go into the classroom, tell a few stories, and that might have helped to soften their impact on the school.
Right.
It'll be like, oh, you're new, but your mother's kind of fun. Okay, come play ball with us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
totally get it.
That was my total motivation to learn this art. And I did it when they were in preschool and kindergarten. And we moved, and I did it again where they were in second and third grade. And we moved, and I did it again when they were in fifth and sixth grade. Just going in, not charging anybody, just entertaining their classes. And then one school said, well, can you do a whole assembly? I swallowed hard. Well, why not? Sure.
Yeah, right.
So she said, there are a bunch of schools in the district. How about if I share your name? Sure. You got a business card? No. You have a brochure? No. This was before websites,
Yeah. Okay.
I said, but I'll get you a business card and I'll get you a brochure real quick. And the next thing I know, I had a career. So I decided, because I was originally going to go back to corporate America, and I said, you know what? This is working for me. I can put the boys on the school bus, go out and tell stories in the schools. I can be home before they get off the school bus, and it works for me.
That's so neat. And so when the boys, did you do summer gigs as well at libraries and stuff?
It's hard for me to remember because in the beginning I wasn't marketing. I was just doing, the schools were calling me and I was just going. Right. It was the move.
Go ahead. The only reason I ask is because when I started doing this, I was a stay-at-home dad. And so my son, we only had the one boy at the time. My son was my roadie, and he would pretty much go with me every single time, unless it was like, somewhere crazy that was like a 3-hour drive away, in which case my wife would take care of him. But I was just wondering if your kids were, you said that they'd go to school, but I was wondering if they ever played hooky maybe and went on you with gigs and became your little roadies.
Shucks, I missed out on an opportunity. No, they never went with me to my performances.
Okay.
Usually I did it while they were in school, and when they got older and I would start to travel, well, they were in school and after school sports and everything, and I was off traveling.
So basically you left the burden of the children on John's shoulders. Yep.
Many years he left the burden of them on me, so why should I leave the burden of them on him?
It's true.
Right?
It's true.
There was a while when both of us were traveling and we did have to do a little extra juggling, but we were both having fun at what we were doing. So
what does John do, or what was he doing at the time?
He's retired now. He was a marketer for an investment company that specialized in real estate properties, commercial real estate properties. He was, let me get this right. They purchased properties so that pension funds would have viable entities to invest in.
Gotcha. Wow. That must have been a fun job.
he
Stressful, I imagine.
he never brought any of the stress home with him, which is admirable.
Yeah.
He was good at it,
Mm-hmm.
and he worked a long time at it because he enjoyed it. And when he retired, I think he could look back, or does look back, and say, I did something important.
That's really cool. Yeah, that's very cool. I like that. Now, you came to tell fractured stories, or as you like to call them, twisted stories, right? Folk and fairy tales. I mean, you do personal stories as well, but I want to talk about this for a little while. What made you decide that you didn't want to tell just the traditional version, that you wanted to fracture them, that you wanted to twist them and mold them into something different? What was the magic in that for you?
I must have heard somebody twist a fairy tale. I can't put my finger on where I heard it, but I must have heard it. But I will tell you, if you go way back with me, I, as a kid, loved the Rocky and Bullwinkle show.
Okay.
And they had a segment in there, that's a TV cartoon show, and they had a segment called Fractured Fairy Tales. And that segment on that show was the most interesting part of the show for me. So at one point, I was in a library and I saw a book called Fractured Fairy Tales, and it had a picture of the same image that was on the Bullwinkle show. So I purchased the book, which I still have, and read that book about 15 times. I just kept reading it over and over again. And I said, I've got to do this.
When you decide that I need some more stories for my repertoire, what do you go and look for in a story that you can then find to twist and manipulate and change into something gorgeous and new?
Honestly, I think my background in math comes into play when I'm twisting a tale, because I approach it very methodically on some level. Okay. For example, when I decided that I wanted to twist a tale, I said, what kind of songs do I like? And I knew that I grew up on Motown. So I literally made a list of all the Motown songs that I liked. And I then sort of fractured that list more by pulling out the lines of some of the stories that I liked in the song, and literally did a spreadsheet on that, and then said, what story could fit some of these lines? And then proceeded to sort of methodically shift lines around, and then pushed it all into Little Red Riding Hood. Another story I had listened to, there's a TV show called In Living Color.
Yeah. And
one of the skits that they used to do was a man who would twist his words, or he'd make up words. Like he'd say, well, that situation was a combobulation. And he would use the word as if he knew exactly what it meant and it was important to him. And watching that TV show, I said, whoa, those words are really fun. The ones he made up, the ones, and specifically ones that ended in ation or ization or something like that. So I literally sat down and put together a list of words ending in ation or ization. And for that one, I made my family sit down with me, my boys and my husband, like, just come up with words, come up with words, come up with words.
So you're making all these up?
We're making words up, and I'm trying to do
That's excellent.
At that point, could we do it on Google? Could you put up words that end in ation? I think it was before Google could do that. And we just made a list of words. And then I said, okay, I think this is calling the Three Little Pigs. And that's how I did it. I want to do one with sports terms. You know, we watch a lot of sports on TV. John pays attention to what who's playing and what they're playing for. Yeah. I watch a bunch of bodies run around.
Sounds like me.
I could probably tell you that somebody wearing white played somebody wearing red. I mean, that's about it. Yeah. But I love the commentary, what the commentators say about how, you know, the running commentary is really kind of funny. So my next goal is to write that down, write down those things that they say and put them in a story. So I'll do the process of writing all these comments down before I figure out which story to twist.
So there's a little bit of your grandfather in this, because you're writing all these things down in this little black book that you're pulling out for later for stories, in your own little black book.
Okay, you're the first one to make that correlation, but perhaps you're right. Perhaps that's my method.
That's so cool. Yeah, okay. That's amazing. I like the idea that you do that. You sit down and you make these words up, or you take lines from. I was big into Motown and Atlantic music when I was growing up. It was really big for me. So what's your favourite part of it? Because hang on, let me backpedal a bit. Are there singers in your family?
No.
So this is
my father was a singer. In that my father was one of the first African Americans to make it to the New Jersey All-State Choir. That was a big deal. And the only reason I know that is because my mother told me that. And then my mother said, but it really doesn't matter how you sing. You sing because you love to sing.
Yeah, I would agree with
that. So my mother and I can remember on Saturday mornings, we'd get up early and start cleaning and start singing. I mean, literally, we would go put on albums on that big console that people used to have back in the 60s. And we put the album...
Like a big sideboard table?
Yes, it was. We won it on a game show, which was pretty cool. Yeah.
Oh, come on. Hang on. Whoa. Before you go on with the singing, let's talk about this game show for a second. What game show was it and who won it?
I have no idea what game
show it was.
It was probably... It was. Here's the deal, though. Okay. We were in the audience, my younger sister, Gail, my mother, and me. Mm-hmm. And the audience was allowed to put their name in a hat. And there was going to be a drawing for some prizes at the end of the game show. Uh-huh. My mother put my name in, Gail's name in, and her name in. So she entered 3 times. Gail's name was called. Well, there was the prize. In this particular prize was money. But because Gail was a minor and shouldn't have had her name in there anyway, they gave us this big TV console thing.
Nice.
I bet my mother would know. I can't ask her now, but boy, it would be awesome to know. And Gail was really young, so I doubt she knows.
Yeah, that's fun. Anyway, so you've got this big console. Sorry.
Saturday morning, that's all right. We'd put those albums on the console, and the music would play, and we would clean, and we would sing at the top of our lungs, probably waking everybody else up in the house. But it didn't matter. We sang with Johnny Mathis, Nat King Cole, Ella Fitzgerald, Frank Sinatra, probably other crooners like that. And we would just sing along.
Any Louis Armstrong?
Who knows?
Okay.
Oh, my favorite, though, believe it or not, were albums from Broadway plays and Broadway musicals. Sound of Music. I think the only one we might have had was Sound of Music. So we played that one. And then the other one I really liked was the Boston Symphony playing Scheherazade.
Oh, wow.
Which, of course, is a story, a bunch of stories about, her that woman. But I could sing all of the ups and downs of the symphony for Scheherazade. I still probably can.
That's funny. That's amazing.
And the thing is, our house was so clean all the time. But on Saturday mornings, we re-cleaned.
But if you clean it every weekend, it's going to be clean.
No, you don't understand. Yeah. My house was cleaned every day. My mother was not insane about it, but she, like her kitchen, when you came in my mother's kitchen in the morning, the kitchen was spotless. Everything was cleaned and put away. To start the new day.
I like that. I like that a lot, actually.
So I got a lot of practice singing when I was small, because of my mother and I would sing and clean.
Yeah. The only reason I asked about Louis Armstrong is because my mum, she was madly in love with Louis Armstrong and Ella Fitzgerald. So we listened to a lot of that kind of music as kids. She also liked Elvis Presley, but we were exposed to a lot of that jazz stuff. Ella Fitzgerald. I got programs from the 1950s. of where my mum would go and see Ella Fitzgerald.
Wow.
She was a massive fan, and Louis Armstrong. Yeah.
Wow.
But anyway. So the reason why I asked you that question about the singing is because I know that you sing quite often in your performances.
I sing at it.
There's honesty for you.
So I will tell you the truth. That story I told you about with the Motown songs and Little Red Riding Hood.
Right.
I wrote it. I finished it. I showed it, the written version, to a few friends, and they said, well, tell it. Like, nope. I think it stayed on paper untold for about 3 or 4 years.
Really? Wow.
I was afraid to sing in public. Now, if you gave me a vacuum, I probably would have been awesome at it. But I was actually afraid to get on stage. And what everybody said is, they'll join in with you. Don't worry about it. Speaking on stage is one thing. Singing on stage is another thing.
Yeah.
I just couldn't do it.
I hear you.
And once I did it, once I got over the hump, and I think the first time, I think I had some plants in the audience where I begged them to sing with me in case it wasn't going to work. And they did. And then everybody else sang along, and I went, okay, thank you, people. Here's $20 for each of you.
You paid them?
No, not
for
really.
real?
Not really. But I paid them with my love and my heart.
There you go.
But I'm pretty sure the first time I did it, I had friends in the audience who told me they would be supportive.
That's great. I love
Sometimes
that.
we seem like we're so confident in everything we do, and trust me, it's not always that way.
Yeah. So do you still suffer from stage fright a little bit?
It wasn't stage fright. It was singing on stage.
So do you get stage fright then?
I don't think so. I might be concerned about whether I'm going to have my facts in order when I do historical pieces.
Mm-hmm.
So I will worry about being accurate and having a good attention to all the details and facts and years and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm telling a story that's kind of a storyline that goes from the beginning to the middle to the end, and there's a line that goes through it, I'm easier with that because A, I'm not pulling facts out of my brain, and B, I can get a visual of what's going on, and C, I can improv if I forget stuff.
Yes. It's hard to improvise on history.
No, you can't.
Well, some people do, and they call it revisionist, right?
Yeah.
Or alternative, whatever.
So that's a good word. I'll use that next time I mess up a historical piece.
So I don't know if you still are, but when I first heard about you through our very good mutual friend Karen Chase, we used you as an example for our branding workshop because you always wore these sparkly shoes. So where did that come from? How did that appear in your life and become part of your persona?
So anyone who has met my husband kind of knows my inspiration for style. When I met John, I wasn't even sure he'd go out with me because he was such the fashionista, and I was such the corporate three-piece suit person.
Okay.
And so over the past 39 years, he has pushed me beyond my limited limits.
Out of your comfort zone.
Out of my comfort zone. Yeah. So and that means, if we're going shopping, he's right there. And nice. If I remember correctly, the first time I bought gold shoes, we were out together and walking past a shoe department or a shoe store or something, and I probably needed some shoes, and he's like, try these. Oh, John, they're kind of bright. Yeah, exactly. So he has influenced me and my style. I would say now I have developed my own style, but I'd say for the first good 20 years of my performing, he was right there pushing me to go beyond my limits on style and fashion. So the gold shoes were, his thing.
Wow, that's
And
so
then I
cool.
said, okay, and people liked it so much. Look at it. When you're telling stories, often if you're telling to young people, they're sitting on the floor.
Yeah, and they're
What
looking
do
at your
they
feet.
see?
Yeah,
Your shoes.
yeah,
They see your outfit. They see your earrings.
yeah,
To me, if I walk in and they see those, okay, they see the dress from the shirt or the dress or the jacket from a distance, they see the earrings, and then they finish down, they go, oh, wow, gold shoes. The audience says, you know what? We'll listen to her in the beginning because she looks cool.
yeah.
Now, we may not like what she has to say, but we'll give her 3 or 4 minutes. In performing, you need those 3 or 4 minutes.
You
And if
do.
gold shoes, and my earrings are outrageous, some of them, and my outfit's usually very, very colorful because they make me happy.
Yeah.
But it gives me that extra 4 minutes. You walk in a middle school and they like how you look, you're golden for at least 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah, for at least. Yes.
And then the rest of it, of course, you grab them with your story and your
Right.
interaction and the fact that you're human and you love being there and they can tell that you love being there.
Yeah, yeah. And so I've seen you perform, not often, and I've probably seen you perform online on videos as much as I have in person. So it's a very small amount, like generally speaking, but you really do seem to absolutely love working with the younger age groups, like the littler ones. Or am I wrong in that?
You're
or don't
wrong.
you care? Oh, I am?
No, you're wrong.
You like working with the older kids?
I like it all.
Okay.
The younger kids, you know that they're just primed for storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
So they're warmed up before you even get started.
Yeah.
But I love middle school because they're not warmed up and they don't quite know what to expect. And then you grab them and you've got them and you're mesmerizing them and they're doing whatever you ask them to do, and it feels like you climbed Mount Everest.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful feeling.
Yeah.
And then adults, I like taking them someplace where they may not be expecting to go, which is why I
missed out high schoolers.
Twisted. Well, because I don't do many shows.
Okay,
in
all
high
right,
school.
okay.
Typically, if I do, it's historical pieces or something special. I think mostly things about history, but I don't do that many high school. I've never marketed to high schools.
Mm-hmm.
And I get enough work with middle and elementary and libraries and adult festivals.
That's cool. What lights up your eyes when you're working? What floats your boat?
When I can tell the audience is really with me. And when I can feel them. And therein lies the problem with Zooming, right?
Yeah.
In that you don't see your audience, or if you do see them, you have to take your eyes off the camera and look below to the screen.
Yeah.
And then you're not looking at them anymore. And you can't hear them because if you have a whole group of people with their microphones on, that can be chaotic.
Oh, yeah.
So it's the feedback, it's the comment that somebody makes that sends me off on a little tangent that I didn't even expect.
Right.
But I'm enjoying it. And then what I'll do is the teacher will say to little Johnny, hush, hush. And I'm like, no, little Johnny's awesome because he's giving me ideas. And those unexpected things, it's right up my alley.
Yeah, I that's I'm right with you on that one. It's awesome when that connection happens and you're riding that flow, that energy that happens.
You know what else I do, Simon? When I go into any venue, I always walk around and talk to whomever is going to be in my audience. So as they're streaming in, I'm talking to them. I'm walking up and down the aisles where they're sitting or on the bleachers where they're sitting, and just interacting with them. You sort of get to a point where you can tell who the leaders are in a group. And boy, that's where I want to zoom in. I want to get to that person who seems to be a leader or that person who seems to have an influence on others and go right to that person and get that person to on my side because we had this wonderful little conversation. And that is so much fun. You know, the 15 minutes before you go on stage.
Yeah, I like that too. I was, when I first started doing this, for me it was really hard because I'd seen a lot of people playing guitars or the flutes or whatever, right? They would have some sort of musical instrument. They sometimes play, or Odds Bodkin playing his harp or his 12-string guitar, right? I'd see these people and I'd just be sitting there on a chair, and I hated that. And so I'd always start bantering with the kids,
right,
as they're coming in, and just like, so what have you been up to today? You looking forward to the weekend, or like, did you have a good weekend? Or, it's hump day, there's only a couple of days left after this one,
Or I love your green hair.
Yeah, I pick up, so I'm a t-shirt reader, right? For good or for ill, I'm a t-shirt reader, and it'll be like, oh, so-and-so's got this t-shirt on, that's a matching kind of t-shirt. Is there anybody else? And then you draw in other people. What are the kind? And that, I think, when we do things like that, we're breaking down a wall that might have been there. Here's the stranger coming into our midst, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's the guy that's like into the t-shirt. So that's the lady with the sparkly shoe. And the sparkly shoes thing, I don't wear sparkly shoes, but I do wear socks that are not always conventional. Because
Me too.
I know, right? So
you
I have
wear
like
2 different kinds.
Not always, but sometimes. Not always. That's not my thing. But I like to wear brightly coloured socks, because kids do. They're sitting down at your feet, and I've usually got my Converse low tops on, see my socks, and then there's my jeans. I'm usually wearing jeans, but it's because you want the kids to engage, and you don't want them thinking that you're like a politician or anything like that, right?
There was a period of time when mixed match socks were the rage.
Yeah.
And I'd see a kid come in with mixed match socks, and sometimes that kid's really proud of it, and sometimes it was a mistake or something. And
Yes.
more times than not, when that happened, I'd be like, whoa, I love your socks. Look. And I'd pull up my pants legs, and the kids would be like, whoa, she's got mismatched socks too, with her gold shoes, right? And and that's a connection. It's a way of connecting.
It is. It's so, I love it. I love it when you can, I don't know, there's something, I like doing adult shows, don't get me wrong, I really do. There's something really, there's really something good about that. But there's an element of pure, unharnessed, uncorrupted joy when you work with kids, no matter what age, even high schoolers. If you can crack that nut, usually they're too cool for anything,
Well, that's why the historical pieces they like, because they're learning something. And,
right.
Yeah.
So what historical pieces do you do?
Let me say this about historical pieces. The reason I started doing them is because someone requested it. Someone said, well, do you have any pieces that might be suitable for Black History Month? And I said, well, I could tell you folk tales. And they said, well, could you do something else? And I started thinking, okay, I'm in this as a job. If someone makes a request, you don't turn them down. You start investigating. You think, well, what could I do that I could do well? So I trying to remember what the very first one I did was. I can't remember. But I know that I have chosen stories that somehow connected to me. Like the one that I did, and I will say this, sometimes foundations have hired me and put me on payroll sort of to research a story and share it with the community. So there was something called the Chicago Tribune Freedom Museum. I don't think it exists as an entity in a building anymore. It might be part of a trailer that goes around, or a big bus or something. But they hired me to tell the story of Rosa Parks and the Montgomery bus boycott, and paid me to do research. And then they came back the following year and said, how about the Little Rock Nine? That's the one where 9 African-American students in Little Rock, Arkansas were the first to integrate in the city, and they did it at the high school level.
Right.
Well, with Rosa Parks, I knew it was important. I knew her story was important, and I, I felt like maybe I'm the person. I don't know why I felt that way, but I thought maybe I am the person who can do the right research and come up with a story that's relevant to many levels of many ages.
Mm-hmm.
So I took the job. When they came back with the Little Rock Nine with school integration, well, that one hit home like in my gut, because after all that traveling with my father in the military, when he went to Vietnam was the first time that I went to an all-black school. Most of my schools had been all white or almost all white, and here I was integrating an all-black school in a city where the students in that school probably had been together from kindergarten through 7th grade.
Right.
I remember that year as if it was yesterday, and I remembered how hard it was for me, and I remembered how ostracized I was. So when they asked me to tell the story of these black students integrating a white school, I felt a kinship. And I felt like it was worth the trouble to do the work to figure out the story and put it in a way that could make it a performance.
Wow. Why do you think you were ostracized when you came into that school?
First of all, kids reject something that's different, or someone that's different.
Right.
I had lived in a lot of places, so I was maybe a little more worldly than they.
Oh, okay.
I had been in more white schools, mostly white schools. And maybe my language was different. They didn't know that. My language, my use of language might have been different. I remember coming home one day in tears saying to my mother, "Can I curse? Can I just say one curse word? Please let me say a curse word. Maybe they'll like me if I say a curse word." And this is not a statement about, kids in general.
Yeah.
But at that point, I knew that they did that. And I thought, if I just said one little word, maybe they'll like me. The way I dressed was just not the way they dressed. I had this long hair with big bangs down here onto my eyebrows, and I don't know. I knew a lot of the answers because the level of education was a few steps back from what I had already been through. They don't like you if you're always raising your hand.
Right.
I think
if the new kid's smarter than the other ones, I can totally get that. Wow. How did that make you feel? As someone that had spent most of your life in school as a minority, to being part of the majority and being rejected by that majority?
Well, first of all, I was excited. It's another new school. Right. I knew how to do new schools. I had done this before. Everybody looked like me. Awesome. I really didn't care what people looked like. I just thought, okay, new school, new place.
Right.
Make it work. That was kind of one of the things my father used to say about us moving. We're going to make it work. And I was totally slapped in the face by the rejection because I had never been rejected before. I wish I could tell you why I had never been rejected before. Was I too young to realize it? I don't think so. I don't know.
We live in a mixed up world, don't we?
Well, I have talked to other peers. When I remember in college, I met a woman who had also her father had been in the military, and she had moved around like me too. And she said the same thing. When her father had retired, my father wasn't retired, he was in Vietnam that year. But she said when her father retired and they moved somewhere, wherever they settled, and she went to an all-black school, she was similarly rejected. And we had long talks about how that felt. There was a kinship right there based on that experience that we had.
I can't imagine how hard that must be.
That's why I was willing to research the Little Rock Nine and what they were doing, because I just wanted to know how it felt.
Right.
I wanted to know how they felt, and so when I tell the story, on some level, I feel
You're bringing
It
some of
wasn't
your
nearly
personal
as
experience
violent.
with it.
It wasn't nearly as violent as what happened to some of them. I'm not trying to compare them.
Right. No, I understand that.
But when you're in 7th grade, it feels as bad.
Right.
You know, I had somebody threaten to cut off one of my ponytails and gum in my hair and sort of being followed on the way home and just stuff. But anyway, that was what grabbed me when they asked me about the Little Rock Nine. I said, yeah, I want to know what it was like for them to integrate a school.
That's so cool that you were able to do that and bring your own personal experience to it as well. That's so neat. So Linda, how do you feed yourself artistically? How do you keep your creative batteries charged?
My creative batteries are usually charged because someone gives me a call and says they want to hire me, and I go, okay, what do I need for them?
That.
Charge.
I like that.
I used to be a member of a group called the Fox Valley Storytelling Guild, and it was based in the western suburbs of Chicago.
Because you're not in Chicago anymore.
I'm in Raleigh,
North Carolina.
Right, I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina, as of 4 years ago.
I might have to send my brother-in-law over.
Is he there? Is he here?
Yeah, my brother-in-law is. Yeah, I have 5 brothers-in-law. One of them's in Raleigh, North Carolina. Yeah,
we have to meet.
We do. I keep saying we got to go and visit him, and now I know that you're in Raleigh, North Carolina. Then I'm definitely gonna have to meet him because I'm gonna spend some time with you.
Awesome. Being a member of that Fox Valley Guild, though, meant we met monthly. There were about 8 to 12 people would show up each month, sometimes a little bit more. Most of us were performing storytellers. Some of us just loved story and wanted to come. Most of us were working on new material every month. And I give all credit to the members of that group for inspiring me, for pushing me beyond my limits. They'd say something, I'd come in and say, oh, someone wants me to do this. Linda, you mentioned blah, blah, blah. You mentioned that. You can do this. I know you can do this. And they'd push me and question me and prod me. And they're responsible for who I am today.
Wow,
for the
that's
pushing,
so cool.
For the coaching, for the give and take. You know, they would work on something and I'd be able to give them feedback and they'd give me feedback. And that went all the way around the room. And I think all of us grew from it.
Who were the other storytellers in that group? Who were the other storytellers in that group?
Now, here's the thing. I could give you their names, and I'd be happy to. But sometimes people think you can only grow and expand if you're with what I call big name storytellers.
Yeah.
Someone once said to me, Linda, stop saying that. You are a BNS yourself, big name storyteller.
Yeah.
But it's about the community that you form together. It's about the respect you have for each other, the fact that you are meeting on a regular basis and you are committing that Tuesday of the month to this art.
Yeah.
That makes it important. And the fact that even if you don't have something new you're working on, you want to come because somebody else has something new that they're working on.
Yeah.
So there are no big names, that I can say and you go, oh, I know that person, I know this person. It is a community of love. It really was.
That's so neat. I like that.
It's the truth.
No, I agree with you wholeheartedly. There was a group of us when I first started storytelling in this area and was trying to make a living out of it. There was one person that was more well known than the rest of us on a regional level, and she was basically her guild, if you want, her little club, and we all went there. And it was because everyone has a different point of view, everyone has a different lens that they're looking at life through. And when you bring a story and you're like, I'm struggling with this and I want to tell this story because it feels right, it feels that I need to tell it, but I can't get my head around the story. And then someone will come up with some sort of, well, why don't you try this? And then all of a sudden that penny drops and it's like, oh my gosh, yes, that's it. That was the missing component. and to have somebody that you can do that with, or some bodies, it's really is a gift. It really is, absolutely.
It's golden.
Yeah.
And this group had no leader. This group was just a group of people. We would expand and contract based on who was coming through. Sometimes there was a core of people who seemed to be there for I think I was with that group about 19 and a half years, a long time.
That's a long time. That is a long time.
It's a long time. And like I said, there was no leader. It was, I should say this, it was a group that was under the umbrella of the Fox Valley Folklore Society that did a lot of things with music, and then through this group investigated storytelling and created a guild. So we were the umbrella of a larger group, but we were just people who showed up. Yeah.
So are you a member of a cohort now? Are there a number of people that you don't do that anymore?
I'm not.
Oh.
When you move, there's an excitement with moving.
Yeah.
I come down to this place that is got wonderful weather. It's great to be outside. We chose this area because of its abundance of tennis courts and golf courses. So I spend a lot of time playing golf and tennis.
I can confirm that, folks who are listening to this, because there have been times when Linda and I have been helping each other out, and it's like, well, I can't make that day, Simon, because I got tennis between such and such a time. I was like, all right. So I can definitely confirm that.
So I'm not
good for you. I think that's great. I love it.
I'm not a retired storyteller.
No, you're not.
I'm still a working storyteller, but I do work around my golf and my tennis.
That's excellent. I love that. So is there anything that you know now that you wish you'd known when you first started?
Boy, that's a great question.
I know. And it's often met with silence.
In the years before I moved to Chicago, when I was telling in these different places based on a story I wrote and edited and shared, I thought, I'm it. I got this. It's all about me. I know what I'm doing. I don't need any help. And then when I moved to Chicago and joined this guild, I realized no man is an island, no man walks alone, right? Yeah. I said, wow, I can be so much better if I listen to other people. I can be so much better if I listen to what they hear versus what I think I'm saying.
Yeah.
They may not hear what I think I'm saying because I'm not saying it in a universal way, or I'm not saying it in a way that makes it work for storytelling on stage. So in the beginning, way back when I was doing it just to help this transition from place to place, I wish I had joined local guilds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one of the things I always suggest if someone says, I want to start storytelling, what should I do? It's like, go and listen. Go and join a guild. See as much storytelling as you can and read as many books as you can on folk stories and stuff.
Right, but the idea of being in a guild means you're working. If you go listen to people, you think, oh, that's the way to do it. I saw so-and-so do it. That's the way to do it. And no, it's figuring out how to take that story and make it who you are.
Right, it's a way to do it.
That takes some effort, huh?
Yeah, it's a way to do it.
It's a way to do it.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. There's some storyteller. I mean, Papa Joe, who's a good friend of mine, an amazing storyteller in his own right. When I first came over to the States, I was only telling stories for like my family or my wife's family when I first came over here. When it was back in the UK, it was for small school groups and families who would come and stay at the youth hostel that I was the manager of at the time. And so I'm totally self-taught. And when I came over here and started doing this, I made a very good friend called Stephen Glazer, and he took me to a workshop with Odds Bodkin, and I was just blown away. And he was using character voices and sound effects really well, and sound effects, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I can do that because I'm a boy, and I used to make all of those noises when I was a kid growing up, and I still do. So I can incorporate. It gave me permission to do some of the things that I hadn't thought of doing before, you know. And Papa Joe, he'll say, "Oh, I can see a bit of odds in that story," you know. "Oh, I can see a little bit of so and so and so and so in that story," you know, because of these people that I've seen in my formative years, as it were, who have had an influence on what I do, because I love what they've done so much. It's not that I've tried to emulate it, but it's something that I admired, I guess, and I wanted to make my own. But
I completely understand.
Yeah.
I completely understand. Yeah.
I like seeing other people. And this year has been a wonderful year. I mean, 2020, when I say this year, it's actually 2021, but 2020, which we've just got through, kind of, not quite, but almost. It's been a wonderful year to see all these other storytellers who we may not have been able to see because they're on the other side of the country, or they're over in India or Australia or in England or whatever, right? And it's been so wonderful to see these people perform. Have you been able to watch some of them?
I have watched some, not a whole lot, but I don't think this medium using Zoom is going to go away, because people realize how awesome it is to bring someone from another country or another part of the United States into your event, even if it's on a Zoom platform. I think we're heading into the future with something new and exciting, and we're not going to let it go.
Yeah, no, I think you're
so
right.
We're going to see people from all over the country, all over the world, at our local festivals, because they're going to have a Zoom in component somehow.
Yeah.
And I think that's great.
Yeah, or a Zoom out component for the festival that might be broadcasting, you know, from Tennessee or from Utah or from Athens, wherever, right? Florida, sending it out to India and you know, Russia and Italy and
New Jersey.
New Jersey, yes.
But I mean, you're right. You're really right, Simon. People will be able to come, because there's nothing beats being in the audience. There's a dynamic that you cannot describe unless you've been there. Mm-hmm. But people will also be able to watch it in other ways and enjoy it.
Yeah. We might get paid more as well if they're making more money off of us.
That's always nice. That's always nice.
So, just a couple more questions, because I don't want to keep you too long. You've been very generous with your time already. But if you were able to meet a storyteller, living or dead, who you have never met, who would that be, possibly? Or maybe one or two or three? Are you like me, one of those?
What? Well, I have to be silent for a minute because I got to think. But you know who I would like to meet?
Who?
Lin-Manuel Miranda, who wrote Hamilton.
Oh,
because
okay.
In my mind, he did the ultimate twist on a story.
Yes,
the story of Hamilton, I have seen the musical. Happily or sadly, depending on someone's perspective, I have seen 6 times on Disney Plus.
Oh, okay.
And the reason for that is, first of all, I tried to see it on Broadway. I tried to see it in Chicago. You couldn't get tickets unless you paid, a fortune.
Yeah.
And then they had all these places where you could get online and you could get free tickets. They would give out certain number of $5 tickets. I did that all over the country for months. Chicago, New York, San Francisco. I figured the price of flying to that place and getting the ticket for $5 was worth it, because we were going $800, $1,000. They were really getting up there. So I really, really, really wanted to see it. And I just love the idea that he took this historical piece of information, or pieces of information, and incorporated music and creative speaking. I'm not going to call it rap, because I think it's more like creative speaking and costuming and dance, and the dancers are awesome. And the talent to put together something that made the whole world want to know about this time in our country.
Yeah,
What
which is
an
a very
awesome,
yeah.
you
And a
know.
lot of the things that they were struggling with, because my wife, she just actually, I think last week, finished reading the book that Miranda had read to base his musical on. And my wife had been saying a lot of the stuff that they were struggling with back then, we're still struggling with now. And we're still having the same arguments, and we're still, the same turmoil. So yeah, it's an amazing part of, bringing together the past and the present together in this one amazing. My daughter's a big fan.
And they're
15-year-old daughter
making it
loves
so accessible for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
He had, relationships with schools where they were getting material and information, and they were putting on little parts of the musical and learning all these things. He to me is one of the ultimate storytellers.
Yeah, I would second that. So is there anybody else maybe in more the general side of storytelling, like our side of storytelling?
The lucky thing for me is once I joined that guild, they said, now you must go to conferences. Okay. So for years, I've been going to the National Storytelling Conference. I went to the National Black Storytelling Conference. I went to what's in a region, the Northwest region, called the Northlands Conference. I went to what used to be called Lanes. I think it has a new
NEST, New England Storytelling.
England Storytelling Conference. Yeah. So I went to so many conferences and took so many workshops and saw so many performers that I feel like, boy, what an investment in myself that was. I just got to meet and hang out with so many people. And I emphasize the hangout part because, okay, you go hear them tell. Okay, that's fine. Then you go hear them in the workshop. But go to the bar after.
Yes, we'll have breakfast with them.
That's happening. Or you come down into the lobby of the hotel and everybody's just joining in. Come on, sit over here, have breakfast with us, have lunch with us. Yeah. So I don't feel deprived. I don't feel like there's I'm going to kick myself when this interview is over. I'm going to say, oh, why didn't I say so-and-so or so-and-so?
Yeah.
But I feel as if I've met so many amazing personalities and got to hang out with them.
Yeah.
That cool. I don't feel like I'm missing someone.
Yeah. No, I get that. Okay. What is the closing question now? Are you ready for it?
Am I ready for the closing question? Drum roll, please. Fire away, Simon.
What is your favorite breakfast? Where would your favorite place be to eat it, and with whom?
My favorite breakfast is probably something simple. Oh, no, you know what? I went to a restaurant during COVID recently where we had to sit outside, and I had an eggs Benedict with, what was it on top? Without the sauce, because I don't like the sauce.
Okay.
But I had an eggs Benedict with, was it steak on top or something?
Sounds lavish.
It was awesome. I didn't use any of the sauce because I don't like the sauce. That's the fattening part. But I do like, a soft-boiled egg with some meat and some nice toasted bread. But I usually just have a very simple breakfast of maybe fruit, and that could be it. Maybe some cheese, or maybe a scrambled egg and a piece of sausage, simple things. Now, who would I like to eat that breakfast with? There is no question. I would love to eat that breakfast with any member of my family, especially my husband, especially my sons, and my two awesome bonus daughters, and my awesome, awesome, awesome granddaughter. Put them all together at the table. I'm happy.
So would it be at your house, Or would it be somewhere exotic? No?
No. Every place I live, I told you, is important, right?
Yeah.
So I don't need to go. I have traveled. I think I'm in house number 13 that I have lived in, either with my father or with my husband. I think
that's a lot.
7 with my father and 6 with my husband. No, something like that. One of those, 6 with one and 7 with the other that we, lived in. So I've lived everywhere. Both coasts, down the south, Germany, in the middle, everywhere. I am always happiest wherever I am at the moment, and don't have these mad desires to be at the beach in the mountains. I love my house. I love my family. We can all be crowded. Well, the kitchen table can't hold all 7 of us anymore because there's 7 of us now. And this just goes beyond to the extended family. I'm just mentioning the ones that are my son's bonus daughters and granddaughter. We'll all sit around the dining room table and laugh. And you know why? Because when we grew up, on holidays, we'd go to my grandparents' house, and we'd all crowd around the dining room table. Well, at one point, there was a kids' table, off to the side. And then as we got old enough, we would be graduated from the kids' table to the adult table. And eating was part of it, but laughing and joking was the most fun.
Yeah.
That's what made it so much fun.
Yeah.
That we laugh and joke, and then after we'd eat, we'd play games. So that's the most special.
I love that. And I think that is the perfect way to end this wonderful conversation that I have had with you. Thank you so much for all your time, Linda.
I'm happy you wanted to talk to me. It's awesome.
Why wouldn't I? You're amazing. So thanks for being on my tiny little podcast, Linda. I really appreciate it.
It's been wonderful talking with you, Simon.
It's been wonderful talking with you, Linda, as well. Thanks. Listening to this interview again as I edited it brought so many smiles to my face, and I hope it did for you too. I hope you felt inspired to maybe try twisting fairy stories yourself. I hope it encourages you to seek out more of Linda Gorham's work. Her website is lindagorham.com. If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, be sure to check out other episodes. And if you think I should interview a certain folk and fairy tale, myths and legends storyteller, send me an email. You can also find me on Facebook and on my website, simonbrooksstoryteller.com, and on Instagram, Simon M. Brooks. Diamond Scree? Yep, that's me, the English fella and storyteller. A shout out to Chris Jedd for creating and recording and letting me use this wonderful music for my podcast. His band is called Blackpool Mecca. Check it out. You can keep this podcast alive and support my craft by becoming one of my patrons and paying anything from $1 for an episode that you enjoyed to a regular monthly subscription. In return, you get extras, early release and exclusive content of my work. Thanks to Becca Worthington for becoming one of my new patrons. Thanks to all of you for supporting my little podcast. I greatly appreciate it. Want your name mentioned? Join the little tribe. If you can't join these wonderful folks, then please help me out by doing something you can do. I would be very grateful if you were to leave a review on Podbean, Stitcher, Apple Podcast, wherever you find this episode. It won't take long and it helps not just me, but others to find and enjoy this podcast. Thanks again for being here with me. I know that there are a lot of other places you could be, and I appreciate it. Until next time, be healthy, be happy, and share the stories you love. See ya. Simon out.
It's just a story. Just a story. Yeah.